another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every evening between the hours of 8 to 9. And today we are going to have a specially invited guest along. I'll wait a little while, but you know, when you have people who are busy and doing good work, you know, you have to wait. And they say the last shall always be first. So I'm first today. Nevertheless, let me introduce the Minister of Sports, Mr. Darryl Smith.
How you doing, brother? Thanks for having me, man.
And
long overdue.
And first of all, let me say congratulations on a fine job.
Thank you, sir.
Right?
Thank
and
you,
also, what I admire about you is that that family life. You know, you always see, all of your politicians, they say politicians be busy. Anytime you see a photo on Facebook, you're with your kids. And that is important because sometimes we get so tied up in working that little time with family and way how children grow so fast these days, you don't want to miss at age 5 or at age 6 because you can't get that back. You know, so I mean, I want to say hats off to you for that.
Well, I got that from some of the former politicians who said to make sure and spend the time, but I'm fortunate that I have the Ministry of Sport where it's a lot of fun activities with regards to, so I mean, I can't leave home without taking them on a weekend.
I realize that. I
enjoy it. They get to see new things and experience new things. So I take full advantage of that.
Yeah. Now let's get straight into this 60 minutes of talking sports. This year had to be undoubtedly the most successful year in sports.
Yes, it is.
A number of national, international tournaments, right? So let's start with that. How, as the Minister of Sports, how would you react to people saying, this year was a successful year in sports, but coming from you, how would you respond to that?
Well, it has been the most successful year. We have been tracking, we went back and we track and so on. What has happened is, for the first time, the funds and the resources, as you know, they've had a lot of issues with sport over the last few years with allegations of corruption and stuff. I mean, live sport, $400 million, we still can't account for. The police is dealing with that. So finally, as much as possible that is in the control of me as minister, the funds have been going to where it's supposed to go. All right, my job was to clean up sport, found it in a mess, and some of the pushback that you see with me is exactly that, because a lot of the people who were involved in a number of things are still there. Right, and until the investigation is cleared up and so on, we'll see where the chips lay. But we've been ensuring I've been there working pretty much 15-hour days at the ministry, the first in, last out, to ensure that we streamline all the various capacities, the various organizations in terms of departments that they do their job and do it properly and correctly. And for the first time, we have been ensuring that the non-traditional sports get the piece of the pie, because we tend to lean towards the more traditional, the football, the crickets and so on. And the smaller sports has really risen these wrongs, and what, as well as I as minister, and what we've been pushing is for the people who are in charge, the administrators, the presidents, the NGBs and so on, to stay in the background and let the athletes be the stars and the heroes, instead of always having some form of, to use the local balance, bacchanal in the media and so on. And that's what has been happening. So the athletes are getting the funding as much as possible, despite the difficult times that we're in. I mean, our budget has literally been cut in half from when I first came.
$22 million less this year.
Yeah, but even from when we first came in, it was 600 million, went on to 300 million, right? So, and we're working with the NGBs. We have empowered the NGBs, have a very good relationship with the presidents and all the NGBs, with the athletes, have an open door policy. So for the first time, they have a ministry and a minister that is listening and taking advice. I always say that I'm not an expert in everything, and there were some previously may have thought that they were and got involved in certain things that they shouldn't have. And I'm allowing the presidents and the athletes and the coaches to get their way, because I think they are living it, and I think they're the experts in it, and we've really seen success this year, and I'm very proud of how things are working out so far.
23 million less for this budget here, 50 plus sporting organization. How are you going to be able to take care of those 50 plus organizations, and how are you going to be holding these organizations accountable for whatever grant is given to them?
Yeah, well, it's a few figures. We aim for the sky to fall on a cloud. So we submit to Ministry of Finance a budget that we think is palatable. We ask all the governing bodies to send in their plans for the year, where they're traveling, what they need, equipment and so on, training. So we accumulate all that together with maintenance, with whatever we have to construct and so on, and we submit that to Finance. Finance will look at all the ministries, they look at revenues coming in from trends and so on, and then they will give each ministry. So it's a figure that we submit, it's a figure that we get in the budget, and then it's the third one, is releases. A lot of people don't understand it's 3 figures. So although we may ask for A, that don't mean we get in here. Our budget is not etched in stone, and last year was the same thing. We always get significantly less depending on the oil and gas revenue. So knowing that, you have to be honest, we submit the information we get releases, but we are working based on the trend that we've been seeing with the figure of releases that we anticipate to get, because we don't like planning, but more importantly promising and giving expectations to NGBs for a figure, and knowing fully well that based on the last 2 or 3 years, based on revenue, we don't get it in releases. I think the NGBs understand. I think they're working with us because they see a level of competency, but more importantly honesty. They're not seeing any loss of money in terms of what occurred before. And yeah, they're rolling with the punches. I think the Prime Minister and the Cabinet and the government has shed light. We had the spotlight on the economy before the budget, and I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to the reality that it is, and they work with us. What I've been trying to get the NGBs and the athletes to try and cut down on, and Mr. Darryl Marcus is working very hard on the Dispute Resolution Center, where we don't ventilate our arguments in the public domain, because that's what affects our corporate sponsors. And despite the difficult times, corporate Trinidad and Tobago has been good for sport and youth. They have been still coming on board and assisting as much as they can. But when we do things to hurt ourselves, the name and the look of sport, even the sport company and the ministry, we try to keep things a little clean inside there, so people will gravitate towards sponsoring the brand of sport in Trinidad to make up that gap that we have between what the NGBs and the athletes ask and what we could give. So I mean, we're hoping that the athletes in social media be a little more mature with regards to how they express their feelings. And I'm saying for them not to, I mean, it's a free country we live in, and you could, but they have to understand that does affect when corporate Trinidad and Tobago sit down in boardrooms to make decisions.
Okay. Now, one of the talking point recently was the new facility at Diego Martin, and also the $3 million upgrade for the golf course. How would you justify to the community that these things are warranted? Because, you know, in one hand, you know, we're talking there's not no money here. So I want you to explain to the viewers so they can fully understand the benefits arising from a project like this.
The Diego Martin Sporting Complex started over 10 years ago.
I know that,
right? A lot of money was pumped into that project. Foundation was laid, steel, lighting, and so on. And my job, as I told you, from Dr. Rowley's mandate, was to clean up sport. And one of the things we did was we did an analysis on all the facilities that we own, what was finished, what needed maintaining, what needed Brian Lara Cricket Academy was one, Diego Martin was one, Mahaiko Oval is one that started and just stopped for 10 years. There's a Brian Lara Recreation Ground in Santa Cruz. 10 years sat down there, and that's government taxpayers' money that was invested. Diego Martin, which I'm from, I played at that ground. I won that league several times playing football. It's the home of Mary Boys as well. We have no recreation facility. We have no indoor facility in Diego Martin, and Diego Martin is a heavily populated area, right? Despite it housing the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Sport, that area is smack in the center of the 3 constituencies, so it makes it even more when you look at it. It's across the street from Diego Central, it's in Diego Martin West, and Diego Martin Northeast is there as well. But more importantly, the former government started talk, they started getting things ready, and it just stopped. It's pretty much almost complete. It's going to be completed early next year. We're aiming for next year. It's going to be a fantastic facility. We plan to have football, cricket, other recreation, and this is just phase 1. There's a phase 2 that we have to do. But this Diego Martins is not just the only one. Brian Lara Cricket Academy was one. As you know the story, whatever it may be, millions of dollars spent there. We had to finish it, and so far, I mean, the first major event we hosted there, the CPL, we won. Right? Again, that is all along the vein of us trying to diversify the economy with sports tourism. The stadium was full to capacity. We had viewership across the world, and we won. So it couldn't have been done at a better story and a story ending to that. So I think Diego Martin will have the same vein. It's going to be utilized, I could tell you that. I'm from the area, I know what it used to be like, and I think it's an investment of complete the project rather than just because there's an integrity time frame with infrastructure, and I think the time was creeping up with regards to the foundation if it could have been used, and that would have been millions of dollars lost.
So maybe that's not really say you're heading down to Point 40 and Mike over.
Well, Mike, because he's almost identical to Diego Martin. A foundation was laid and it was just left. So with the weathering, the millions of dollars that was spent for that foundation, we have to, so we have to utilize. But Mahika is another very similar to Diego Martin. A lot of prominent athletes came from that area, and it just has been there for years. So it has been put in this budget. Eurocot already did a site visit with the MP and the people down there. Always ensure that we consult with the people in the area. It's not a Ministry of Sport or a Eurocot project. We want the people to hear their views, what they need, and so on. And I'll be taking a cabinet note soon to get that project started as well.
Let's talk about the sports company. Sports company was established somewhere around 2004. I think it's going to be revamped now to the Sports Commission.
Yes.
But do you think from 2004 to the present time that the sports company was really performing or really be an entity that did what it's supposed to do?
Yeah. Well, that's 13 years ago. The cabinet, I read the cabinet note the other day, right? And the mandate for the sports company was to morph into the Sports Commission.
But did they really do what they were supposed to do?
They did a lot of good work, but I think they lost their mandate. I think they lost their way. We have a lot of cross-threaded with the Ministry of Sport, the boxing board, and the sport company, where we all do the same thing. They handle and work with NGBs, we do. They do building and maintenance, we do. They do advertising and PR, we do. So it wasn't supposed to be like that, right? But over the years, it morphed into something completely losing its mandate, and that's a problem, not just the Ministry of Sport, but a lot of government agencies, the evaluation and monitoring of policies and what organizations are supposed to do. For some reason, after time goes on, that tends to go out the windows, and it morphs into whoever the persons are that are running it. But I always say, never too late. And I think that now is the time for a sports commissioner. You would have seen there's some issues going on with the sport company now, and that might be from the pushback because we're really trying to clean up sport. And I mean, they've done a lot of good things, but they have some bad things that occurred there with live sport and so on. And I think for the benefit, if you look at the first world countries, Australia, and those countries have sports commissions. Australia is one of the most successful countries in sport. And once we follow that model, which we're planning to do under Douglas Camacho and the team, who's, as you know, one of the best, one of the best in the business in terms of sport, I think we'll be on good footing.
Do you think that you all will be able to ever recover the money that was lost through the live sport?
Well, that's in the hands of the police now and the AG's office, and I mean, boy, we could sure do with some of those funds now. One of the things that people tend to have forgotten, and we're working on that now, I have in front of the cabinet for the first time a reward and incentive policy for athletes. That has been used as a political football for years, right? Athletes qualify for world championships, they win medals, and they don't know what they're getting. A number of first world countries, Australia, etc., have a policy in place. So that's in front of the cabinet now. But the reason why I bring that up, you would have recalled that we had something called Caribbean Games.
Yeah, which never came off.
Never came off. All right, and there were funds that were put in to run that Caribbean Games.
Was that ever recovered?
Right, same like this live sport, right? That we pushing to get a close on that investigation. So if we could recover any money in these difficult times, same thing with Caribbean Games. You're right now in the process of seeing how we could get back some of those funds to assist with the maintenance and the development of athletes. So to answer your question in short, it's not just live sport that we're looking and hoping that happens, but there are other avenues in Caribbean Games as well.
We always had issue with the boxing board, this combat sports, and different combat sports. Now you all come in, you dismantle the boxing board,
Yeah.
when you bring in combat sport.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Boxing board was formed in the 1930s. God rest his soul. A boxer died in the ring, and knee-jerk, they formed this boxing board, and that is in a number of countries that there are boxing boards. But the trend now has been moving away from that because there are other sports, combat sports, are more dangerous than boxing. And they're finding a way now, as you know, there are a lot of infighting in boxing and in these combat sports and so on. And we had a meeting, a consultation meeting since the cabinet note was approved for the first time. And for the first time we had these individuals and these bodies in a room discussing all positively and optimistically, working together and all agreeing that is the right way forward to have the Combat Sport Commission. And I was very pleased I attended as well, and I was very pleased to see that. Dr. Barry Ishmael is the chairman of the boxing board. He's a martial arts expert as well, very knowledgeable in government. He has a PhD in law, and he is being put in the fold to get this commission going. We'll have to have some, we'll have to take it to Parliament to have some constitutional changes with regards to that. But I think it's the move to the better. A number of countries have done it, and it's been very successful. And I think it's more important to protect our athletes from any bodily harm, and just to streamline the sport of combat sport, which is getting very popular. I mean, if you look at boxing, the biggest boxing card for the past 5 years was between an MMA and a boxer, right? And I hear this was have a rematch the other way soon, right? So I mean, everything just like all the other sports, T20, sevens in rugby, hockey as well. Games are evolving, right? And I think the sport of boxing and combat sports are evolving as well. And hopefully we see a mesh that they could all work together in unity.
Now, what plan have you all put in place, especially for the new venues? Because these new venues must generate revenue in order to be able to acquire funding for maintenance, because we don't want the venues to look like the Atobol, well, not the Atobol Stadium, because that's now the home of football, and that's been revamped. But the Dwight York Stadium, the Larry Gomes, all these stadiums. The Hazy Crawford, right? These stadiums are in shambles right now, if you can use that word. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want you to tell me, how do you preparing to allow these venues to generate funding so that they can help at least part payment of having a proper maintenance structure. Viewers, you are looking at Scoreboard here on ACT, and we're talking to the Minister of Sports, Darryl Smith. We'll be right back after the short break.
You're now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
Only by not some winner.
In all the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy. Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9.
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua Matos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Unfortunately,
hey, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh,
what's that?
welcome to this edition of the interview, and as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shakir.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to the Scoreboard here on ACTM. So, Minister, before the break, I was asking you, how do you all intend to use the new facilities to generate funding? Because, I mean, you don't want the maintenance and everything to be always on the back of the government. These venues must be able to generate some sort of revenue. How do you all expect to use them?
Yeah, you mentioned some of the facilities there, the Dwight York and so on, and it's sad that these facilities were built so many years ago and no major maintenance was done to them. We always tend to do that, not just in sport, in government. I've been here for 2 years. We've been trying our best with the resources that we have to put in for the first time a maintenance policy that we're working with. And in terms of Trinidad and Tobago overall, we're the only country to, first of all, we have the most sporting facilities per square mile in the world. Right, in terms of when you fly over Trinidad at night, you see all these lit fields and so on that are not being used, but I'll come back to that. The aquatic, the racket, the cycling, the Brian Lara Academy, and the indoor facility in Sandy Grand, they all open in 1 year. Right, no politics were played with the four that started under Mr. Manning and Mr. Ronald Boynes, right, was the Minister of Sport. Roger Boynes, Ronald is his brother. Roger was the guy who concepted these facilities. They came out of government and so on. But nevertheless, we finished them on time, within budget. We finished the Brian Lara within 1 year. We're the only country to complete and open 5 world-class facilities without hosting an Olympics or a World Cup. Right, so it means a monumental task that we did in 1 year. These are world-class facilities. We're working right now with all the governing bodies worldwide. The Prime Minister and I met with FINA's president. I met with the UCI former president, but the new president has said he's willing to work with us. ITF is working with us to make all those world-class facilities satellite development centers for them. So that's going to bring in a number of resources for Trinidad and Tobago. So you're going to see foreign athletes coming to train at the cycling velodrome for months at a time. They're going to have programs, coaches, therapy, and so on being housed there from the governing bodies worldwide. So that in itself is going to assist us. For the first time, we were looking at naming rights for these facilities. You notice we didn't give any athletes, local athletes, which we still plan to do. But again, we're working on that. That has to go to cabinet as well, because strange enough, over all this time, the Ministry of Sport never got a mandate or permission from cabinet to actually charge fees. So that is something that I'm doing for the first time now. That's part of the cleanup process, and we're looking at the whole structure of how we charge to utilize our facilities. I mean, to use one of our swimming pools is $2 or something. People give $10 and tell them keep the change. We have to restructure it. So that is being done now. That is that note is going to cabinet this week or next week. But overall, this also not has been the most successful year in sport, but it's the most international sporting events we've ever hosted and the highest level we've ever hosted. And that is our mandate with regards to assisting the economy to diversify from oil and gas for sports tourism. And it's been a wonderful year. I mean, hockey hosted the highest level at the hockey center. CC-CAN, and we won the CC-CAN as well at the aquatic center. Cycling did it twice, tennis did it twice, and a number of sports have been hosted, and we've been helping all the sports. Volleyball was very successful as well, and we're working with them and so on. So we're continuing in that vein for sports tourism. Badminton has a huge tournament. For the first time in one facility, we had 2 international events going on at the same time. The Tobago ITF and the Caribaco badminton. Had over 600 international athletes in one venue playing 2 different sports. We saw it, as I said, with CC-CAN. We had diving for the first time. We had an athlete represent Trinidad and Tobago in diving. She won 2 gold medals. Right? Unfortunately, we don't have a synchronized team yet, which brings me to the other point. In these difficult times, you're seeing us working with public-private partnerships. I went to China earlier this year, and we were able to sign a contract. That MOU is going to be finalized, where you're going to be sending on coaches for synchronized swimming, for water polo, for a number of other sports that they are very good at. And we're also going to get 30 young people from Trinidad and Tobago to get full scholarships to the #1 sporting university in the world, Beijing Sports University. 14,000 students only studying sport. From sports science, sports tourism, you could get a degree in any sport. as well. So that is something that you're going to be hearing about, and young people will have the opportunity to apply and go to the top school for 3 or 4 years and further their education, whether it's bachelor's, master's, or PhD. So we are partnering with a number of international groups. TTFA, I want to give kudos to TTFA. Finally, they audited the books. The Gold Project opened back again, so the funding from FIFA started. And we did a public-private with them to open a hotel and make it the home of football. Now that whole corner, they talk about raising funds and making revenue between the aquatic, or among the aquatic, the cycling, Atobolan, Brian Lara Academy, the cricket center, and across the road is the Brechin Castle Golf Course. Yeah. We want to make that the hub of sport for the region, and you're going to be hearing a little more about that later on this year. We're going to do a launch for that whole area with naming rights and so on, with a big international, hopefully corporate entity that could bring in some US and so on. So we have a number of things planned despite the difficulties we've been having with the funding. For the first time, we're doing a sports policy since 2002. Long overdue, but again,
how far is that?
That's in the cabinet now.
Okay.
It's just to be approved, right? But again, the issue is not, yes, it was too long of a time, but it's the implementation and the monitoring of that, right? It's going to be heavily focused on development. Right now, we focus on the elite athletes. I want to focus on the development to reach to an elite athlete, sports tourism, the maintenance of the facilities, and a number of other aspects that we have been ignoring. We're doing a youth policy as well as we speak for the first time in 5 years. The reward incentive, as I spoke at. So we're doing a lot of paperwork that wasn't done before, and I think it will assist the athletes moving forward.
Now, if we go back a bit to the community fields where they are lighted community fields, we talk about wastage of money, but sometimes you pass some of these venues and the grass is so high, but yet still the light stays on, you know, for all 12 whatever. How are you all going to be paying attention to this? Because that's wastage, because it's the SUT you have to pay. Correct. Right? How are you going to be maintaining try to cut that
the local government reform, I know the Minister Kazim is working very hard to get that going, but that is a major part of it. Ministry of Sport has a role to play in that reform, working with the councils, that are the 14 councils that are out there, and of course they have to get the proper training how to maintain, because Trinidad have a culture that we cut bush. We don't maintain. The bush get high on the highway, we just cut it off. We don't plant flowers and have it manicured and have mulch and stuff. We have to get into that culture, right? And when we cut, we leave the cuttings. And I remember when I was small, we used to use the brown dry grass as goalposts. We could have mounted up so high, and they don't rake it up. So we have to get the proper equipment, maintain equipment, but more importantly, teach the people who are doing the work to do it properly. I mean, despite it all, the Atobola and the Hazy Crawford, all our fields are well manicured, right? So we're going to be working with local government, Diego Martin Recreation Sporting Complex. That's going to be handed over to the Diego Martin Regional Corporation.
But do you think that the corporations are fully, equipped to handle these major, venues?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So some change and some education has to be handed over to these organizations. But with change, you always get people who are against it. You know, people is want change but don't want to change. But we have to local government reform. How we do it is done in first world countries where they're in charge of the little sections. We can't sit down in the cabinet and see what's going on the ground. The councillors and they are the ones that do that, and we really want to give them the power and the resources and the training to be able to do it. So I think we're on good footing once it's done properly. And one of the things that you're seeing now, the problem with the lights being on, is the lack of volunteerism. When we were younger, they had people who used to run leagues for free. You know, so, I mean, if we had lights like this in our day, my parents know where to find me, day and night. But people used to do it out to the purest of their hearts.
So you're playing football under the street light?
Everybody has to get paid to do these things. And I mean, that is what is causing a lot of problems. They come to the ministry for funding, which is fine, but they also want money to run the league, right? We need people to volunteer in the communities again with a little support to get things going. But there's a lot more distractions to it. I mean, nowadays they didn't have cable, they didn't have all these movie tongues. And so
the strongest part of the young people body today is their two thumbs.
Well, I mean, I saw the other day, very lucrative, and it's a big thing now, is FIFA EA EA Sports World Cup. Big money, and it's the #1 selling game, and but people are participating in a big way, just as if you were playing in for Real Madrid, and they're professionals now in that film. So there's a reality, and then there's a virtual reality that just the times that we live in.
I think it's up to the parents really to get the children at an early age involved in activities, because if you just allow them to remain home and watch TV and play, they will go into that, and it's hard to really
pull it away.
Recently we heard some complaining from young Akeem Stewart about the facilities in Tobago, especially the Dwight York Stadium. That stadium is in really,
never maintained. No work was ever done, and the sea glass.
Yes,
they're close to the sea.
What are the plans of the ministry for the Dwight York Stadium?
So as you'd have heard in the budget, some allocation was put towards that. You'd have got already did a site visit. They met with the THA people there, and they're finalizing. I'm finalizing a note to take to cabinet now to get that approval so they could do the RFP and get that project going, the tendering and so on, and get that project going ASAP. But it's not only Dwight York, it's the Atobolan track. Right, they saw the other day with the Americans, with the issue. The track has been so for years.
But not cutting you there, but as that's the home of football now, that track is going to be dug up.
No, we're going to do it over. We have to do it over.
So is it still going to have track and field there?
Yes, that whole hub. So it's track and field, football, aquatic, cycling, cricket, golf.
Yeah, because someone was asking, as the home of football now, if they're going to still
the entry A office is there too.
Okay.
Right? So
The
fortunate thing for entry is they have a number of tracks throughout Trinidad and Tobago that they can utilize. Right? But they are there, and we want there to be the hub when TTFA completes the hotel there. We are looking at we're looking at a public-private to do a major hotel, proper big hotel there because of the Brian Lara as well, Cricket Academy. So no, the track is going to be done over. I'm speaking to the Minister of Finance to do an overall plan with regards to how we're going to fund renovating all the Hazy Crawford is almost 40 years. Never had any major work done. The GMP, right? Governments come and go, ministers come and go. But I'm only in my second year. I've finished the 5 major facilities. We have a few others that we want to complete, the Diego Martin and stuff, but maintenance now and a proper plan is where we're heading at. So I have 3 more years, and I think in that time we'll have it done.
What about the light situation at the Marion Stadium? Because out of all the stadiums presently, that's the best turf right now.
Atobolan has light problem, Dwight York has light, but never upgraded, never. So my job is to do that, and we're looking at in these difficult times how to find resources to do it, but it will be done under my tenure.
Let's talk a bit about plans for the new year. What sort of plans does the Ministry of Sport has, and what can we look forward to for the 2018?
Well, we have hit the ground running. We work on a fiscal year calendar, so starting in October, right? I mean, you would have heard the Minister of Finance and myself speaking about the Sports Commission. That's gone already in a few weeks. I mean, the budget finished, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? The Combat Sport Commission, that's gone out. The sports policy, that's already in front of the Cabinet. The reward for an incentive for athletes, that's in front of the Cabinet. So a lot of the paperwork is already done in the first few weeks of the fiscal year. This calendar year, next year, 2018, we have the Commonwealth Games. We're looking at that. You would have seen we have Michael Johnson working with the entries. That is huge. We're working with them with that. Kudos to entries. Mr. Efren Serrett and his team is doing a fantastic job. And we're working with them. We want to see that as I said, it was 981 days to the Olympics, minus 3 or 4 days since Michael was here. Right, so we watching that. So with us doing the administrative aspects, we building the facilities, we maintaining facilities, we trying to get funding. We had a good show in the Olympics, and you see people only think of the medaling, right? But we had the most athletes ever in the Olympics, the most females ever in the Olympics, and the most sports that we participated in the last Olympics. So granted that we didn't medal as we would have liked at the level. I mean, Keyshawn is the only one who did. And we did pretty good, right? And these things is point something of a second is win a race. When you make big leaps like that in sport with those 3 categories, it's huge for any country, far more small island like us.
How I look at it too is that, remember, let's say you make a final, there's 8 people in that final. You have to be the top 8 in the entire world.
Yeah. The stars after a line.
So that has to be an achievement, eh?
Yeah.
Because I was even mentioning something this week here. We talk about our failure to qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah.
But had decisions in 2 games gone our way, we would have qualified for the World Cup. And that's what people not really realizing. All we are saying is that we didn't qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah.
But decisions were made on the field, and we were robbed of points.
Yeah.
And we could have been singing a different song right now. Because you all could have been preparing now to send a team to the World Cup.
Yeah.
But again, our memory, we are people that just love when you win. Because for instance,
the same Olympics.
When you look at, let's take Kishon Walcott, he performed many times at the senior champs, right? And you have about 500 people, right? But when he won the medal and he came back to the airport, what millions of people did, right? And that's how we look at things.
No, but look at the Olympics, how they were bashing the Richard Thompson. I was out there protecting and saying that's not how we do. And then the 4x400 the other day in England, everybody jump back on the bandwagon. We need as a people to have pride in our athletes and to support them as much as possible. People say we're bandwagonists and so on and so forth, but I mean the athletes feel it, right? And they train very hard. I mean, and I know it's difficult for them to come back after trying their best and people on social media bashing them and so on, but those days have to be put behind us, and we have to be mature enough to support whether in good times or bad times, because we can't be on top. Nobody's on top all the time in any sport, right? They did very well in the 4x400 the other day
in the World Championships,
in England, and we want to support it.
And that's a young team, eh?
Very young team. So the future looks positive for athletics. Football, okay, we didn't qualify for the World Cup. I think we ended off on a high with the victory over the US. We saw the lady soccer warriors started off well. They beat Jamaica twice. We're doing very good in beach soccer, which is another positive.
We brought a gold and silver.
First time we ever entered, right? I know Clayton Morrison, they're working good with the futsal. So at the home of football, and it's going to be a true home for football because it's going to have all 3 elements of the game: futsal, beach soccer, and 4 football fields lit. That is there. The same thing with tennis. We have a racket center now with tennis, table tennis, badminton, and we're going to be putting some clay courts pretty soon. So it'll be a true reflection of all the sports. For hockey, look, hockey we qualified for the indoor, right? But the hockey center doesn't have an indoor facility. It's outdoor on the turf. So we're looking at putting an indoor facility or getting a proper home for hockey, where they could because we seem to be doing much better in the indoor part of the game, and we want to support those guys who are going to Berlin for the World Championships. Very excited, the World Cup.
Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to touch a bit about on the TT Pro League.
Okay, no problem.
We'll be right back after the short break.
You're now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
But my first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
All
the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy. Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9.
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua D'Amatos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Unfortunately,
Hey, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh,
what's that?
Welcome to this edition of the interview, and as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shakir.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard here on ACTN. Mr. Minister, we have a pro league that has been operating for the past 13 or 14 years, right? Now, from my understanding, amateurs are supposed to be taken care of by the government or other entities. As a professional organization, you must be professional enough to be sustainable to a certain point. But without the subvention given to the teams, we are hearing that teams are not being able to pay their players, and also the rumbling, some people saying that they're not sure if the Pro League is going to see the end of the season or how it's going to function. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm being a former footballer for Trinidad, NCAA in college in the US, secondary schools league. I never got the opportunity to play professional. But the Pro League has been around, I think, 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? And they have seen difficult times throughout that period. We haven't been having the funds released to us to do what we have been doing in the past, and I think they're all knowledgeable of that. I think they have one of the club owners who's a major senior person in the Ministry of Finance, right? So I'm hoping that will show and explain to the members of the Pro League what's happening, because I mean he sees it before even I see it. Right? It's very, very senior, very close to the Minister of Finance, and he's seeing how the releases are going. But I think the Pro League is something that is good. I think Dexter Skeen and the team are doing a good job. They're trying their best. I think it's good for the country. I think it's good for the region. I think it's good for the sport. And if it was a different time, we wouldn't be having discussion there. No, we would have the funding would have continued, but we just haven't been getting releases.
But do you think there's more that can be done?
Well, one of the things that they sent a proposal to us, and one of the things that I liked and that we're working on is to give them homes. These teams are saying that if they get a field that they could call their own, they could. I remember Mr. Shabazz saying, Coach Shabazz saying that they won't need any funding, period.
Yeah, I remember.
If they were. Well, so we gave Caledonian, we're working on that field there. There are a number of other fields. The Diego Martin field will be completed soon. The Brian Ara field in Santa Cruz is going to be completed soon. There are a number of fields that we're trying to bring up to a level that they could take over. And again, it's the public-private that the government is looking at. I will be taking a note to Cabinet to see if that is something that we could work with. That they could give a few teams the field to manage, working with the local government and the ministry, and that they could bring in their own revenue in terms of marketing, rental of the field, signage, selling of t-shirts and so on, and uniforms and paraphernalia. And we're hoping that could help the league. But I think it's needed, and we support it. We want to support it. It's just that it's really challenging, difficult. I mean, football gets the most money. I think they get 60 or 70% of all the money in sport. They get a big chunk, but it is our national sport. Nobody could argue that there's the most participation, the most fans, and so on. So we understand that, and we respect that, and we work with that. And TTFA is doing a good job. They have cleaned up the sport under this new president, and we're working with them. And that is the plan moving forward to give leases to these teams, that they could utilize these grounds as their own, and they could get their revenue to assist in paying their staff and so on.
As the Minister of Sports and a former secondary school footballer, I'm sure that you have to be concerned with what has transpired in this year's season. Yeah, I spoke to Mr. Garcia just this last week about this. I mean, we've always heard of it over the years, from way back when I played, about overage players and who repeat 10 times and all these. But
I think this year it went a notch up.
And I think the stakes are higher. And I'm not saying that is right. I'm absolutely, it's totally wrong, and I'm hoping that it could be cleaned up. Secondary schools, we're supposed to have a meeting with them to see what we could do to assist. But with it being now shown on Sportsmax and stuff, I mean, I have colleagues who coach in the US who watch the games and looking at recruiting and calling me and asking about guys who have passes and so on. But it's now a production, right? And I think that has probably gotten into the heads of some of the administrators. And as an administrator, we have to be the adults and the mature ones to ensure that these things do happen. I'm watching to see what will happen with the cases. Is any in the police hands now. But the league itself, what sanctions or what new policies or rules they're going to put in that this doesn't happen again. I think they have to be proactive, and I think they have a good team there that will ensure that they have new rules and regulations that this won't happen again. But I'm hoping this is behind us. We learn from this and we move forward.
But with the Ministry of Sport, we getting involved.
Well, it's under the Ministry of Education, right? School sport. But of course, we work hand in hand together. And as I said, we're going to meet with them. We're going to have a meet with them. But I think it's just to put a proper plan because case in point in the US, the NCAA, there's a clearing house, a department that clears all the documentation, and there are people from around the world. I mean, I had to submit my transcripts, my grades, recommendations to get the visa to go. So we probably need a clearing house, a proper clearing house for the secondary school, not just for football, for all the sports in secondary schools, that this is not again. But I think we'll learn from this and move forward. Very optimistic, because the league itself, the level, I mean, I went to the St. Mary's Fatima clash the other day, and I was happy to see the support, the parents, the kids were beating drums and the trumpets and so on again. And I think with it being the partnership with Sports Box now, I think has raised the bar.
Reflecting back on the 2017, besides the financial aspect, what would you say were some of the other major challenges your ministry faced?
I think our main thing was the funding aspect of it. I mean, it's the most successful in sport. I mean, you have to take your blessings.
How you managed to do that, in such a difficult financial period?
As I said, we made sure that the resources, all the negative that you're seeing, even with me to an extent, it's a lot of, it's a lot of pushback. The Ministry of Sport and the sport company has grown a culture over the years, right? And we are trying to clean it up. So there's a lot of people in there who are not happy. There are a lot of people in NGBs who are not happy because we're asking for certain paperwork, and we are now for the first time instilling policies. You would have heard some athletes saying how the ministry changes policy for elite athletes. We never change it. We enforce what they weren't doing before. So before an athlete could have come and just sit down with the PS and get a check. And that's what opens. It starts off small and it opens to live sport. And I'm saying, no, where are your bills? The PS is asking, where's your bill? The sports director is asking, where are your bills? Look at the policy you need. And they perceive it as changing it. But it's the same policy, just that we enforcing. And that is going across the board for NGBs and also with regards to the athletes. And that has happened with sport, with the secondary schools league, with life. We need to have policies, but we need to monitor it and implement it properly. And people have to respect that. The people behind the counter have to follow that. So don't get vexed with them. They have a policy that is mandated by the law of the country that they have to follow. And that's what we're trying to do, and I think people are understanding that. And I'm very optimistic for 2018. I think we're going to do even better. And I'm here for 5 years, or wherever time Dr. Rowley wants to move me or not. I'm MP first, has asked me to the cabinet after that.
I've seen you reaching about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, I'm workaholic by nature. Diego Martin is my heart, and we're doing a lot of good things down there in these challenging times. But I think next year is going to be even better here for sport and youth, because we tend to forget that youth is also under the ministry. And we have Mr. Kent, Erland Kent, who's working very hard with for the first time a policy, but again, they don't implement it. And I find youth don't get the media attention that it should, but we're going to be addressing that as well. But with the crime situation, all the stars have to be aligned. Youth, sport, the police, the Coast Guard. We have to also work with the Ministry of National Security, education, the schools, and so on. But I'm optimistic that we have a good team, and I think we're going to move forward.
2 years in office, family life, work. What's the experience like?
Very, very challenging. It says, I mean, you don't have enough seconds in a second for me to do the work. I always like to deliver, and I think that's a part of playing sport. Getting a degree, you have to finish things on time and so on, and that has been curtailing me. But at the end of the day, there are people who talk and there are people who deliver. Right? I'm here for 5 years. Don't benchmark or calibrate me until the 5 years is over. At the end of the 5 years, I'll be able to stand up and show you.
Done in 2 years, I mean, if it could happen.
It will happen.
It will happen.
Right? And I have a manifesto now, as policy that I live by, the Bible that I live by. And 2020 or whenever election is called, I'll be able to say, well, judge me now based on this infrastructure, policies, work that has been done, and I think at the end of the period we see. But so far, I mean, infrastructure-wise, we're leaps and bounds before previous ministers of sport. We've really delivered well on that. With the policies that we're doing now is second to none. Some of these policies have never been done before. And again, just I mean, as much as 20 sports have gone to, and they say the first time a minister have ever attended, and that's the support that needs to be shown. But more importantly, I like to go and learn and see the fraternity. So when they ask for funding, like I say, I went to that event, and there were people, because I'll tell you this, I've been to events and people have asked for funding, and when you go, it's 2017 and you see 2013 jerseys, but we give them money for jerseys, or 2012 medals, and we give them money for medals. So sometimes when you go, I mean, on any given Saturday, I bounce you up a lot. I could go to as much as 7 or 8 events. I bounce up all the time, but I enjoy it. But more importantly, the athletes and the NGBs are happy, and they respect that the ministers here are making time to go and support. So although we may not be able to support as much financially, just being there,
be present,
just being there and trying the sport. I mean, for the first time I try archery, I try kayaking and stuff. I mean, that goes a long way for the young people to see that the ministers out there trying, and I recommend and I invite my other colleagues to come all the time, you know. So, but I enjoy any job. I think Dr. Rowley is really trying his best. Minister Imbo, the Minister of Finance, is trying his best in these difficult times. None of us knew that we would have been in this situation. But I think Trinidad and Tobago need to pull together at this time, and instead of bashing and politicizing everything, as I always say, they always say God is our training. We haven't had any earthquakes, we haven't had any hurricanes. I say this economic issue is our natural disaster, and as a people, how are we going to pull together to get through?
Do you strongly believe that we're going to overcome this?
I think so. But everybody have to be on board. Everybody have to be honest with themselves and with the situation. A lot of people still denying, in denial. You have to be honest with yourself and see it is what it is, or we are trying to dig ourselves out of this hole. And I think we will.
If you look back at the last 2 years, is there anything that you, when you sit down in your quiet moments, you tend to realize that you could have done differently?
As I said, I'm no expert in this. I'm learning. I think the best thing that I've done is to do that, to listen. I think that is a quality that I learned, and I think has helped me. I mean, you ask any president of any of the governing bodies, I'm a phone call away, and I call and ask questions, and vice versa.
I could vouch for that because I got a phone call early this morning.
But you have to be on the ground, and you have to remain humble. But most of all, you have to remain honest to yourself, to the people. And what we have to do is tell people when you can't help it. To politicize and pretend and string people along, I can't do that. If you do have the funding, somebody may ask me for assistance, and someone say, listen, this is the situation, we'll try our best. But the people at the ministry and the sport company and stuff have to get into that as well. Don't hide. Come out and tell people, because people have to plan. Right? Come out and say, well, we can't do it, or we could, or this is the situation. And I think that honesty that I have with the NGBs and the athletes, I think has helped.
Anything you would like to share with us before we wrap this interview?
No, I just, for the athletes to stay strong, to stay focused. Be careful when you hit send on social media, because that is your footprint for life, and some things that you may say may come back and hurt you later on in life. The NGBs, the presidents of the NGBs, stay honest, stay in the background, let the athletes shine. Corporate Trinidad and Tobago continue to support, and I think sport has been the shining light for the country so far, but let it be the athletes, and give them the room, give them the space, give them the support, and I think we'll be okay.
This might be the final time I'm speaking to you for the end of the 2017. You want to take time to wish the nation?
Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the athletes, to the parents, to the coaches, to the sponsors, to the trainers, to the psychologists, all those who assist in sport, to the media, to the supporters. Trinidad and Tobago need all of you all now. Work with us. We continue to try our best in Ministry of Sport to work with you all, and 2018, I think, is going to be an even better year in 2017. Thank you, and God bless you all.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
And all the best to you.
All right, cool, man. Take care.
Well, viewers, we have come to the end of another edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. We were talking to the Minister of Sports, telling us all about a successful
2017 in sports, and as we look forward to 2018 with great anticipation, especially for the bigger games that will be coming up, we want to wish the Minister, his colleagues, and all the members of staff there at the Ministry of Sport, great success in all what they do. Remember, if you miss any part of this program, they'll repeat tomorrow at 1 p.m. And we hope that you will join us next week, Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here on ACTN. Have a blessed week ahead.